So, I made a YouTube video 4 hours long or something about reviewing season 3 of The Boys with my friend. It's a good video. I had a lot of fun making it. I had a lot of fun editing it. I want to do more videos like that, which I'm trying to do with the Invincible Armor one. I'm hopefully trying to get out. And after that, this video came up. It's got 2.4 million views. This guy, PointlessHub, he's got 257K subscribers. I figured I'd just react to his video called The Boys Comic Was Kind of Terrible. Now, as you can tell, because I haven't liked it or disliked it yet, I have not seen this yet. I was saving the whole thing, but I kind of out there saying that I am a fan of the comic. I like the comic more so than the show for sure. So I figured I would give a real YouTube video who knows what a real YouTube creator who knows what he's doing a chance to change my mind. 15 minutes, we'll see how far I can get through it. Let's see if this kicks me for streaming this guy's stuff. But oh yeah, see, this guy's definitely just way better at making videos. But I got a lot to learn. Even though, honestly, I don't like this thing though. This seems like the regular, like fucking. I gotta stop swearing. Actually, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. I'm not. So, the regular YouTube maker kind of stuff, like an introduction. It's like, man, just fucking start talking about your shit. Like, be real with me. This is how you know when you're dealing with somebody who like does YouTube for a living, because it's like, you really got to pad it with your intro, your outro. Man, this ain't a college essay. Tell me your shit. But Garth Ennis. Yep, he made some good stuff. But let's see what he's got to say.
Eventually, for any genre, once it goes on for long enough, common tropes develop and are recognized by the audience. A jump scare in a horror movie.
Junkie!
In a disaster film. The obligatory all is lost moment.
All is lost!
Superhero films are no exception.
Yep.
In fact, the MCU became so successful it established new tropes that never previously existed.
Man. It really feels just like a lot of padding. Like, I get it. Yeah. But seriously though, like, while we thought it was going to be Breath of Fresh Air, like the first season, yeah, I was close, but oh boy, I don't know. Like, I guess compared to the Marvel stuff, but I guess I don't know, maybe that's why you always got to remember what bubble things are taking place in, because maybe it was only that good because of the Marvel crap at the time. But,
what the superhero genre had become.
Yeah.
A satire of every soulless company that only cared about marketing and public image. Soups existed in a world of cinematic universes, and to promote the next product. But before
girls get it done.
the only thing the promotion showed was this guy's girlfriend getting turned into jelly by a knockoff. And that was enough for me. You see, I never heard of.
Yeah. I think that it was. I didn't read the comic until I saw that first episode. After I saw, I think, first 2 episodes, then I read the whole comic because it was seeing something like that. His girlfriend just get exploded. That it was like, this is real comic book stuff. Like, you would think you'd see Quicksilver do that once or twice or something like that. No. But you finally saw it here, which makes you think like, all right, we're getting some real shit.
Before the show was announced. And before the first season even premiered, I decided to read the entire comic run from beginning to end. My takeaway after reading through all
just
of
like me,
this was that it was alright. Like, I enjoyed it, but it was in the same brain space as Postal. It was grimy, made...
Same brain space as Postal. Maybe a little bit. Postal, I thought, was more kind of aggressive about its stupid jokes. Like, this did a better job parodying something and actually having more to say about like corporatism in general.
Feel
Maybe
kind of dirty
but
reading
postal,
through it, but it had entertainment value. After season 1, outside of the initial premise, characters, and certain events, turns out the adaptation changed pretty much everything. The joke was on me for reading it, I guess.
Yep.
The original boys.
Yeah, isn't that a shame? It's like when they're making a story, you know, or something about a story or something. They're just making anything that already existed that was good. And you read it and you're like, oh, yeah, this is good. I can't wait to see this. And they decide to get rid of all the good stuff. It's like, just a bunch of fire, whatever. Like, sorry, 9/11 happened. Like, why can't we make it, like, that was such a cool part of it, the alt history of 9/11 and that kind of stuff. Even if they didn't do it that way, they didn't have to make it 9/11. They could have done it the exact, like, very similar, but no. I had to dumbo it down.
It was written by an edgy teen that thought adding the most amount of graphic violence, swearing, sex, and racial slurs would make his story stand out.
Interesting perspective. What I feel, from my perspective, is more so like it was too much for him. And I get that, right? I mean, I have a feeling for this guy, one racial slur is too much for him. But unfortunately, if you want to be like realistic, you get like, I don't know, racist characters, they're going to use racial slurs, right? I mean, if you want to write a story about uncomfortable things, you might be uncomfortable, right? Yeah, like he just said in the beginning of the video, like it's kind of like a parody on like what the superhero client had been. I mean, not only with the Marvel movies that before like the show came out, but also with the comics before the book came out. It's been a parody on what has come before it, which is a lot of that is like sterilized kind of stuff, right? Where not too much death happens. When the death does happen, it's a girlfriend of a superhero and it's tragic, or a superhero dies, but he's going to come back and that kind of stuff. And without showing like the graphic stuff, like, so this coming out and doing like being a parody on that and trying to show the opposite of like that, it's like, okay, you could say it's graphic detail, right? That there's too much gore or whatever, too much racial slurs, too much swearing, or that's the kind of story he's trying to tell, is an uncomfortable story about these awful people that do violent, terrible things, and therefore he needs to depict it this way so we can see it that way, so we can understand that that's what it's about. Otherwise, it would just be another superhero comic, right?
Yeah, he's Superman, but he eats babies.
Which, I mean, yeah, that he didn't really eat babies, but maybe he did eat babies. Yeah, I mean, that's something, right? We're gonna say that's too edgy? I mean, maybe, but I mean, of course, this whole thing is just gonna be about subjective taste. It's his subjective taste that he thinks it's too edgy, right? I mean, it's different than saying like, oh, you've got a Superman that saves everybody and that catches trains and airplanes, like, because that is like derivative and boring and stupid. Like, yeah, you can kind of mock somebody that, oh, we've got a Superman that eats babies. Like, yeah, you can be like, oh, that's way too edgy. But you can also, it's not been done. It is a thing that hasn't been. It might be interesting. Maybe you should shut your stupid mouth and maybe you might get an interesting story about something that's different. Other than maybe you want Superman again. What do you want? That's my feelings right there.
Favorite novel adapted, and then swear until their dying breath that the book was better than the adaptation. This is the exact opposite of that. The show makes small but necessary changes that, had they not otherwise, it would be far lesser for it.
Nope. All right. Now, it's been a while since my voice video. I'm going to go over some of the things I can try to remember that they changed that I think was for the worst. Let's see if he brings up any of the ones they did for the better, and maybe he'll get me. But Black Noir, for the worst. Butcher, any of his changes basically have been for the worst. Butcher's wife not dying has been for the worst. Homelander. Oh, Starlight, all the Starlight stuff that they changed, all way for the worst. Like changing Stormfront for the worst. Like, just look at the comedy, little black baby right there. There's a little black baby right there. Like that hilarious. Come on. He's a racist. He got a little black baby. That's supposed to be funny. She didn't care. She's a slut. Like that. Maeve also, the way they changed Maeve, she was a much better character, man. All right, whatever. Let's see what he's got.
Is the show always perfect? No. Sometimes it's a bit
Oh,
knows with itself.
he actually noticed some of this.
I truly believe, no matter
I'm sure he
where
supported
you
it,
sit
though.
on the aisle or what your views on the show's politics are,
Yep.
this show at least has something to say. Something that the comic tried to do, sort of, but then gave up halfway through.
Something to say. Okay. And what he just said that that the comics gave up halfway through because they had other kind of like arcs and stuff where they went and did like one-offs and what kind of shit like that. Okay, whatever. I would say it's a little bit more connected than what we've been getting so far with the show. You think the show has a better running through line through it? Fuck no. What? The show's over. The first season's like written by completely different people, it feels like. Then the second season's like, what the fuck is this? The third season, it's like going all over the place. It doesn't even know how it wants to do with these characters, and yet you're going to just say that it knows what it's doing better. No. The comic book was at least, it seems like, definitely helmed by Garth Ennis the whole time, at least for the most part of like the main story, okay, what was happening. And it seemed very clear cut on the characters he was trying to make and the story he was trying to tell. Now, was it the most deepest story in the whole world? Like, oh, I'm sorry, this isn't going to be about every character getting their own little thing where Frenchie has got something about feminism and somebody's got something about learning about their father and someone's got something. Like, no. It wasn't a story about all that. It was about a few core things. It was about Huey. It was about Butcher. It was about Homelander. It was about Vought. That's it. That's all we really needed because that was what it was trying to tell us. And before I keep going forward, what the show is doing with all of those things, worse than the comics.
The show takes seeds that were planted and lets them grow, leading to a story that isn't simply for shock value.
What?
Think of this.
Shock? What? The dolphin? Yeah, I'm sure you didn't show the dolphin then.
Lesson in writing.
Okay, let's see.
Garth Ennis is a comic writer most famous for writing Preacher and that Punisher one-off where he kills literally everyone. It's a pretty open secret that Ennis hates
superheroes.
And I'm not just saying what superheroes became or superhero media. Like brunch. Like.
Excuse me, everybody. I'm going to have to get an ad right here. And I hope it's an ad about something I want to talk about. So let's hope.
What is brunch?
Yeah. I mean, good. Damn it. Good editing, though. So, unfortunately, Sweetwater was not one of the ads I wanted to talk about.
They have done nothing but sully the media.
All right, let's do my next beer.
And make them only for kids. Which, I mean, is he wrong? He likes Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, and then that's it. Everything else, he despises, especially Captain America. Oh, don't get him started on that old Cap. He's kind of the original hater of Cape Shit, which, while respectable, that hatred goes incredibly far. Goes farther than just making jokes about MCU fans.
Yeah, that's kind of what can happen when you're inundated with too much of one thing, right? Like, obviously, he probably was surrounded by comic book stuff, one kind of comic book stuff. He begins to dislike it, you know, that he goes so far in the opposite direction. That's how you get things like, you know, Kathy Griffin holding a decapitated Trump head and taking pictures of that. You wouldn't really think like, oh, this is a normal thing we're going to do. But no, but it seems normal at the time because of where they were, right? Garth Ennis, like, yeah, again, I don't think any of the stuff he ever did in the comic was that extreme, but because, you know, it would happen in real life. It happens in real life, and it would happen in real life with people with superpowers, but whatever.
The way The Boys is written is almost like a manifesto against the very idea.
He said it, manifesto.
Of costumes.
Do you think he'll say fascism at some point?
And throughout the entire run, the plot follows a similar
Oh, yeah.
The boys
Swado.
come
No,
across
Swado.
a superhero who is a loose parody of a pre-existing character.
So he's really going to talk about one of my favorite parts, and I really hope. No, well, they're obviously not going to bring this up in, the actual show. But what a great twist!
Flaw, and usually it's just the same flaw. This hero is Martian Manhunter, but he's a degenerate. This character is Iron Man, but he's a pervert. Oh look, it's the X-Men, but Professor X actually diddles kids.
Yep. There are those. There are also ones where it's about people who've killed people. There's those kind of stories. I think maybe the reason that they would use some sexual stuff a lot in this is because it probably wasn't talked about a lot, and because kind of that's what comes with power. I mean, we're always taught rape is more about power than it is about the actual act itself. I mean, that's what I was getting out of the whole comic. I think maybe he missed was that superheroes and having a superpower was kind of a translation or a comparison of societal power or wealth or something like that. And so, yeah, this kind of stuff happened because they had power. They weren't worried about repercussions. Yeah, they could do whatever they wanted. That was actually just a big part of the superheroes in general, which started off as a big part of the story in general, is that all the superheroes were extremely hedonistic. It didn't matter. They didn't care about their actions or the cause of their actions, what they were going to do. They were going to do drugs and fuck whoever they wanted every night because they could, right? Because they could get away with it. That was a big part of it. I don't think it was really just in there because it wanted to shock you or to there was I think a specific message why he put those things in there. There were other people too and other things that happened that didn't have things to do with sex. But there was a reason why those were in there, I believe.
There is really
yeah. Like I said, you're making a story about uncomfortable things. Sorry. Yeah, kids, terrible things happening to kids, happened in the book about terrible things. I guess you don't know what's going to be about that when you're reading the story, but sorry. But yeah, because somebody's I know you might think it's terrible, but somebody's got to spread the story. Somebody's got to have isn't that the whole point of accessibility and spread, I don't know, acceptance and stuff, is spread these messages and these stories about what could happen to people so we all. No, we just shouldn't talk about it because diddling kids should be funny, not an actual story.
Of the trope like with Watchmen, or a clever parody like.
Oh, the Watchmen. Oh, two of the most basic boys comic anime things to talk about. Good job.
It's more straight up.
I mean, I bet he did not like Gantz because it was too sexualized.
Hatred. You can imagine Garth writing every possible scenario for how a soup can get massacred by his edgy guys dressed in trench coats or the military. In the show, superheroes are...
Again, in the comic books, a lot of that stuff was... I think it was there for a purpose. I don't think it was there to just subvert you, to be like, aha, look at them, they just died. It was stupid. No, it was to more, I think, make a message about power itself, that power is perceived a lot of the times, in that, for example, in the comics, Homelander really did have as much power as he said he did, but a lot of the other superheroes really weren't that powerful, and people could probably just kill him. You could probably just shoot a missile at him or something like that. And the fact that nobody thought they could, or, whatever, is what gave them more power. And so every now and again, just showing you, them just get missiled down or something like that by the government. It was okay, a wake-up call of well, maybe, what you think is the power maybe isn't. Maybe there is something else going on there that should wake up to the ideas of power.
Allegories for the egotistical celebrity. They will do anything for their own image. It's a game that you play for fame and fortune, and that reflects in every aspect of how these characters think. Drives them to be selfish.
Yeah, probably one of the bigger flaws with the show compared to the books. It seemed like they were trying to use superheroes and their powers as a metaphor for societal power or wealth or something like that, when in the show. I think they just compared it to Celebrity, which I think you're missing so much more of what it
Do
should mean.
terrible things, but not to an unrealistic degree. You can see parallels to real-world shit.
Harvey Weinstein.
Because most of that complexity doesn't exist in the comics. Superheroes in this world that Ennis wrote are irredeemable, cartoonish psychopaths. There is no complexity to them.
Now, would you write, like, God, it's like missing the whole point of what the comic is. The Boys, I mean, God damn it. Okay. The Boys were like a secret organization, kind of sub-governmental, kind of allowed by the government to kind of keep superheroes in check by doing like some of the most awful things and like, blackmailing them and doing crap like that, right? Okay. They were focused on people they could blackmail and could do awful things to, and were doing bad things. They were focused on the bad superheroes, which is why we saw a lot of the bad superheroes. The good superheroes did not have to have the boys come after them, which is why we did not see them. Maybe that is why that is not in the comic. And even so, in the comic, there were plenty of superheroes that were like the good ones that were kind of shown, for better, for worse, not that much, because, again, that wasn't what the comic book was about. It was about Huey, Butcher, Homelander. I'm sorry. Maeve and Starlight weren't the main characters, but Starlight was in there, and so was Maeve, and they were both good. So, I mean, yeah, Maeve was also a sexual degenerate, but that was because she was using sex and booze to help control her pain of living a life she hated. Which is like, I don't know, more interesting. I'm sorry.
Based on celebrity status and the corrupting influence of fame, and more like the mentality of the gang from Clockwork Orange. Any costume suit.
Yeah? Are you going to sit here and tell me that the gang, like Clockwork Orange, has nothing to say and it's bad writing and it's kind of terrible? I don't think so.
In some way, is a sexual deviant, a racist, or a violent psycho. Now,
yes, the bad guys.
if I could, I would show you a lot of examples, but I'm trying to not get demonetized and banned off the site.
So you're going to show the good examples of the good superheroes?
All of these horrendous things that my eyes had to witness never build onto something.
I mean, they do. They build onto a lot. I mean, talking about the society of decadence and power and what it creates. I mean, that's the whole point. The whole point is that it's not one villain at the top. It's all of them, because they've all been degraded into this lifestyle because the power has corrupted them.
Instead, it just feels like a hit piece on fictional people that don't actually exist. Sometimes, simply the message in The Boys is, this hero is gay, these heroes are ghetto. The Boys collect...
Yeah. Yep, sometimes they're just gay. I mean, at a time where that was, like, maybe not looked at as well, so maybe that's why, because it was still kind of seen as, like, different, but... Again, I don't think they were really trying to say that they were trying to say gay was bad. I think it was more like really trying to make parallels, metaphors, like these comparisons to like what we would see as the decadence of Rome and that kind of stuff in Greece, where it wasn't about heterosexual, homosexual. It was about the hedonism. It was about getting off. It was about that, and that was, I think, but he focused on the gay shit.
More often than anything else, pictures of sex acts that they can blackmail people with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was shocking that time to have in comic books, and that was probably a big part of what made it interesting in a seller as well. So I'm not going to say that they didn't play into that.
Now, sometimes there are superheroes that happen to be good people, and if they are, they're portrayed as pathetic jokes.
I mean, good for him for bringing this up, but there was a point that they were made as a pathetic joke, is because this wasn't about, like, specifically good people. The one girl here who's not mentally retarded isn't a joke, because she's actually a good person and capable, but she's taking care of a bunch of retards, which, of course, yeah, they're not capable because they're retarded. I mean, so duh. I mean, is he just assuming that because they're retarded that they're good? Retarded people can be bad too, buddy.
Maybe their only quality is that they...
If you need any verification on that, ask my girlfriend.
They look stupid. Or sometimes, as the comic goes on, there's no reason at all. They're just a soup, and they're fodder for the boys to defend themselves against, even when they aren't supposed.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff like that in the comics, like Frenchie just taking out some businessmen in like a cafe or whatever. Because, it's not so much about those exact people. It's about fighting the culture, the environment. Like, that's what the superhero thing is. It's an environment. It's a culture. That's what they all represented, which is why he killed those stockbrokers in the cafe. It was because he wanted to kill some dudes in the cafe, because he was fighting against a culture and things that the comic book is directly against, which is why they did all the things they did.
And Huey accidentally punches right through a guy. It turns out to be all right, and Huey shouldn't feel bad because the guy had a hamster shoved up his ass
Now, I don't know where the hell he's getting that idea that he shouldn't feel bad for killing him because he had a hamster shoved up his ass. Like, that was like a joke at the end. Like, the guy died and a hamster came out of his ass. I can see myself thinking that up and being like, oh, that's a funny bit. You should put that somewhere. Like, imagine a guy dying, he falls over, then a hamster runs out of his pant leg. You make it really subtle. Like, it'd be fucking funny because, like, who would see that coming? But no, that's the only thing he can focus on because he's afraid of sex.
The original Boys comic is that guy that stumbles onto the stage at open mic night, says they're a master of satire, and then says the N-word. Now, just because a story has edgy
he wasn't even brave enough to say it.
elements, that doesn't make it necessarily lesser. The show has messed up stuff all the time. It's just it contributes to the bigger story.
Yeah? Seriously? I mean, that's the problem is I think it's completely left up to your own subjective sense of taste on if you think it's good enough to help the story or not, or if it's tasteful enough to help the story. Like, the gore stuff in the comic books I thought was tasteful enough to help the story. Let's see what
showcases how far a character has gone or what the stakes are. The comic showcases fucked up stuff just for shock value, and as a result, it makes.
Yeah, we're also. I mean, that definitely did happen in the comics, but you're also looking at. I mean, I'm pretty sure that happened. What the fuck are you talking about? That definitely happened in the show as well. We're only on season 3 of the show. Just you fucking wait for the show to go on till season 10. How much pointless, shocking bullshit will be in it? So yeah.
Story less about our protagonists facing off against a corporation and its celebrity heroes, and more our protagonists just going around taking out crazy cartoon people. As you see, despite the show
I mean, that was part of it, but did you feel the need to maybe mention... So one of the things that he showed a couple times was the comic where Huey was helping the retarded group of superheroes, which were, good people. And, he had a fight. There was a bad guy who got brought into it, whatever. It was, like he's making it sound like they were brought in just to make fun of the stupid good people, make fun of the superheroes. I'll kill some superheroes. That's it. No, the whole point of that comic was really Butcher trying to see if Huey was like on Vought's payroll or not, or if Huey was a good on his side or not. So like there was way more going on with that comic than just what was happening with that superhero. That was like a top level story that wasn't really even the story, because the story was about how Huey was dealing with that story. Because the bad guy that they brought in was going to kill Huey, but Huey would have known how to deal with him if he was part of Vought. So that was the whole point, was to see so you're missing chunks.
Vought. That is not what the comics portray at all. Probably should have said this at the start, but spoilers for all of the comics and all 3 seasons.
Compound V, yeah, I know, that's what they're missing.
When I realized what truly made the adaptation so different than the comics.
It's because they don't have superpowers. Yeah, that's something, but I think that makes it worse. I mean, that wasn't the whole point of The Boys, was being holier than thou.
And it was the inclusion of temporary Compound V. You see, the Vought Labs cooked up some green temporary V that makes...
Temporary V made it way much worse. You fucking stupid bullshit. It's like having a character die and bringing them back. No, have permanent things happen in your universe, or else fuck it.
To a suit for 24 hours. Huey and Butcher both start taking V as a way to even that power.
Nope. Another commercial. Yeah, I know I should get ad block, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Come on. Can't you give me one of the commercials I want to talk about?
While MM and Frenchie believes this crosses a line and will make them hypocrites. This dilemma exists in the comics. Despite hating Soups, Butcher injects Huey with V without his consent, and then laughs at him for getting mad. Through experiments, Butcher is actually superpowered at the start of the story.
Yeah. This is the, this is the holier than thou attitude I really don't like. That kind of new stuff from a more so take. It's like, well, our character will never make a morally bad choice or will never have to deal with these things, mainly because we'll write it in a way that they'll never have to, you know. But more so, don't worry about that. It's like, I prefer them having the superpowers and more, you know, and taking it, because it's like, especially if and Huey being forced upon to take it, it's like, it's more realistic that way. It changes the story in different ways. It makes them hypocrites in a way too. That makes it more interesting than just being regular heroes, because that's the whole point. They're not supposed to be regular heroes, right? And them thinking, like, you know, thinking that you don't need to have superpowers either to take them on. I mean, of course you would think that if you're like, you know, a lefty. You don't think you need guns to take on the government or something like that. Yeah, I don't need to be as bad or something like that. Like, yeah.
All the boys are. This ethical question of whether using Compound V is hypocritical or not just never comes up. And
yeah, I mean, if you're a brainiac, that comes up in your own brain, and you think about that stuff, and that's the interesting kind of stuff you sit there and think about after you're done reading a comic book. Like, ooh, you know, like, doesn't that kind of make them hypocrites? What does that kind of mean? Are they going to talk about that? Is that like, no, I mean, I'm pretty sure Huey does bring that up, especially around the end.
How many Soups they do kill? If they didn't have V, they probably would just die. But what does...
Yeah. Actually, no, now that I'm remembering, yeah, they do bring it up around the end. That's why, I mean, spoilers alert for the whole comic book, but that's why Butcher's like whole plan at the end is to kill all the boys as well, because they're superheroes as well, and himself. They all have to die because his plan is to kill all these superheroes, which makes sense if you know, read the book, and that very straightforward. His arc doesn't really, you know, like, he's an arc and all, like, you learn a lot more about him, but the more you learn about him, the more you understand that his character is what his character is, and it's not changing.
Does is it removes an essential element that makes the show work so well: tension. In the show, whenever the boys run into a superhero, it feels like they're up against a legitimate threat. It's like having a bomb in the middle of the room. These are people who can do whatever they want without repercussions.
Now, that is something I did like about the show. That you had that tension of like, ooh, they could just get blown through, you know, by somebody like that. But the comics also had that as well, because the compound, like, it didn't give you all the powers in the world. Apparently, what we see in this, the temporary V makes you just as strong as Homelander, which, fuck me. Everyone should just take it then, because in the comics it was like it just made them like base level, or like some of them stronger or not so stronger. It's like somebody could still like turn into a gas and then go in through all your pores and choke you to death, or someone could still rip you apart. It didn't make you like have no fear. Like, Homelander was still the strongest motherfucker around. Like, it missing big chunks of what actually happened in the comic.
Skills to take them down. The reason why
they still had to use those things to take people down, because I mean, I guess it was more centrifuge, because they were trying to work under the scenes, right? They weren't trying to, until kind of at the end of a lot of the comics, they would just wrap up by killing the person.
Boys hate Soup so much is reinforced with every scene. But in the comics, since the boys use V, that threat is gone. In fact, because most of the time the boys are just running into low-level idiots, Butcher and his gang often have the advantage. So the story is reduced to edgy characters dressed in trench coats just brutally tearing apart a bunch of costumed dorks. It's like Billy Butcher is just Ennis's cool OC that only exists to act out violent revenge fantasies against fictional people.
Yes, because, like I said, that was kind of a whole point of some of the comic, was the idea of power and perceived power. Some of the superheroes really weren't that strong, and you could just kill them. Some of them, I bet you could just shoot with a gun. right? That anybody, well, in any good state, could just buy, right? Does does that make? I mean, that's like the point, right? I mean, they have it's perceived power. And then when it actually comes down to who actually has the power, the people, the guy in trench coats, the boys, the guys on the streets, like that's the whole freaking point of the comic.
When
Like,
talking about characters, I don't want to make this a list of differences between the show and comics. If you want a true comparison, watch Mojo. Both of these have
Watch Mojo. Good one. That was a good joke. I like that one.
Here all day if I listed them out. Because of the path the show has gone,
Oh my God.
it has drastically altered these characters.
Women, get it done.
It's put them in situations and challenges that have shaped them over 3 seasons, which can't really be said about the comics. Starlight
Are you
and
serious?
Kitty, for most of the comic, don't even know what the other is doing.
Yeah.
Many of their interactions
That adds so much more to their character growth than just blowing all through it.
are just Simon Pegg with a blonde naked chick. The show was able to deepen pretty shallow pools, and nowhere is that better shown than Homelander. The live-action adaptation of Homelander
Is mainly due to the actor.
in a show I've seen. Birthed from a test tube, born to be a corporate product, Homelander is one big ball of narcissism, self-consciousness, and psychopathy. One aspect
And he's also a complete contradiction.
of the show's plot is just seeing the mental deterioration of Homelander. Now, while that's kind of there in the comics, Homelander isn't really in.
Well, yeah, because Homelander isn't the main character of the comics. It's not from his perspective. You don't really get it huge. Again, it's left up to our imagination. What we do get tells us a lot, but we wish there was more, but...
Anything particularly special. He's done terrible things. He's forced himself onto women, leading to the death of Butcher's
I mean, who hasn't?
wife. But the comics have shown that superheroes do that all the time. In fact,
Yeah.
Homelander forced himself onto Starlight along with Black Noir
Suck it. Again, okay.
and A-Train. And this right here is a good example of my point.
Big continuity problem with the comic book, at least, because that blowjob scene in the beginning there with Homelander, A-Train, and Black Noir. Black Noir is a clone of Homelander. We find out in the last comic book. So they have the same penis, right? They never noticed that? Bro. We twins over here.
In the show, it's more of a message about workplace assault. And in the comics, it's just,
Assault.
oh, that critical element
No, I'm pretty sure it was trying to talk about the exact same kind of messages. It just did it in a way that was a little bit more vulgar than you would have liked, but probably more realistic.
of his character isn't really special in the comics. We see characters that are depicted in a far worse light than Homelander. Now, as you might remember, I did say that Homelander ate a baby, which is, yes, incredibly bad. But in the comic, these
Yummy.
are simply shown in pictures.
Yep.
In fact, these pictures are something that Homelander doesn't remember doing. He talks to himself in a mirror,
And they
then
weren't him,
suddenly has
right?
a realization that he can do anything. In the show, when he does something bad, he knows he's doing it, and he doesn't care. But the
All right, hold on.
Homelander actually does. He's disturbed by these pictures. Homelander just kind of is like, I'm crazy now, and decides to lead a superhero revolution. So let's talk about the worst part of the Boys comic, the ending.
Wow. Okay, I didn't see that coming. That was the biggest twist I saw so far. The ending is the worst part, because that's the whole interesting thing is that Homelander was pushed into doing all these things. Like the comic book one was going to do a whole revolution and all this kind of stuff because he was pushed there. That was the last thing he really could do, because once everyone saw all the fake evidence of what the things that they thought he did, everyone was going to hate him anyway, and that was it for him anyway. So this was his push to his last straw. Not that he wanted to do those things. In the show too, it's like, man, I'm not even getting that from him. I'm getting more so it's like he feels like these are the things he wants to do, or these are the things he wants to do, but these are the things that he hasn't really seemed like he's been able to talk himself so much into feeling comfortable with it yet until maybe the last episode of the 3rd season. But he's saying the ending of the comics is bad. Oh my God. Let's see what he's got. Fuck me, man.
And so the Supes take over the White House. Because pretty much every hero
Yep.
had already been thinking
Yep.
about the same
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
Homelander kills the president, and that's that.
Well, because
Except there's a
he was talking to all the superheroes about it. That's why they all
plot
knew.
twist.
But
It turns out Homelander didn't actually eat a child, or did any of those horrible...
see, he's got that right at least. Red herring is bad. Twist is terrible. It's not like they didn't set it up from the beginning with Black Noir, though,
Black
dude.
Noir the entire time. Who could have guessed that Noir was
It would have been
actually
better if
a clone?
Maeve was just stronger than him from
Yep,
the beginning and beat him
Noir
up.
was a clone whole time. The complex deterioration
Or it would have been better if Noir was a black guy, because that's funny, because Noir means black.
of a spoiled soup with parental issues that we see in the TV show. Yeah, that doesn't happen. At the end of the day, Butcher sums it all up as Homelander is tricked into becoming a psychopath, which is just the worst twist. It under
Are you stupid? That's the whole point, because it's all about power. And he didn't even have to become evil himself. Homelander didn't have to become evil to use his power for evil. He just had to be tricked into doing it. Man, like, that's the whole fucking point. Oh my
finds
god.
everything that made Homelander even remotely worse than other soups. Most of the bad things we
He
thought Homelander
can't get over the
did,
baby eating, I
well,
don't think.
Black Noir did it. At the end of the day, he's simply a big...
No, there's plenty of stuff that Homelander did do that was bad too, though. So that's what makes him more interesting of a character, because there was some of that bad shit that he actually did. He knows he did.
dummy that got bamboozled into going cuckoo. It was a prank! We were just fooling you! All Homelander really did was simply suggest to a bunch of other crazy people that they should take over the country. Don't worry, this plotline is resolved in like 5 minutes because it turns out the military had anti-soup missiles the entire time.
Because that's another thing that's running with the whole stories, also about power, but that the government is another power. Do you think the government would let themselves be usurped? Like, they were waiting for this, like the Cold War, you know? Like, there's so many, whatever. I mean, if you don't want to see it, don't want to see it. Whatever.
So this really wasn't even that big of a deal. They all just die like idiots.
I mean, the end of the book, the end of the series, they're trying to get rid of all the soups. And once you understand that Butcher's whole plan is to kill all the soups in the world, then yeah, it kind of makes sense that
That was it.
It's about
That was
killing all the
reason why
soups.
Garth Ennis wanted the soups to join Homelander's revolution. It's so they could get absolutely decimated by the real cool guys, the military-industrial complex. And with everything wrapped up in a nice, neat bow, Butcher just decides to kill all of the boys. Wait, what? Garth Ennis hates superheroes, so he wrote a power fantasy about people not dressed in costume.
power fantasy, or what's the opposite of that? Where you're so afraid of your weakness that anything powerful scares you.
Ripping apart nerds with their
It's called soy boydom.
bare hands. To justify this, every superhero is an absolute lunatic.
I mean, that's the point of the bad ones that they see. Yeah, I mean, not all of them, but that's the whole point
A
of
narrative
a lot of
that
it.
explores the idea of superheroes like that Flash game where you blow up your buddy. The message is just that superheroes are cringe, which might not be untrue in these times of MCU fatigue. But at the end of the day, The Boys teaches us a valuable lesson. To remember that too much hate towards something can become just as annoying and intolerable.
Hero-gasm, baby.
Making fun of.
And he's got the keyboard ending there too. Yeah, that was terrible. All right,